Episode 26 this week, A City on the Edge of Forever. Arguably the most popular episode of any of the Star Trek series ever made. Hugely popular episode. Basic premise: the Enterprise is at some planet's orbit because they detected ripples in time. They went to investigate, and there's an explosion. Mr. Sulu's injured. He's laying there unconscious. They call for medical assistance. Dr. McCoy comes up and he's got this medication. Cordzine, he says. He says he'll risk a couple of drops for Sulu. Sulu opens his eyes. He's like, oh my. And then, while they're packing away the medicine, ripple of time hits the ship. They buckle. McCoy accidentally injects the entire thing into him. And he freaks out. He thinks everyone's trying to kill him. He throws the guy off the turbo lift, so Spock and Kirk have to catch the guy, while McCoy goes down to the transporter room. And he chops the guy in the rib cage, and the guy passes out. Passes right out. McCoy beams down to the planet, so Kirk gets a party to go down there, takes most of his senior staff. Barely out of coma, Sulu apparently was in charge. They never specified. But Kirk, Spock, Mr. Scott, Uhura, and a few security people all go down to this planet. Why he had to have his chief engineer go down to this planet, never explained. Why the captain and the first officer went to go look for him, never explained. Why they didn't just lock onto his communicator and beam him back aboard the ship, never explained. But they are looking for McCoy and they see this giant ruins. There's this big cement structure. Mr. Spock's like, that's the source of the entire time ripple problem we've had. And Kirk's like, how's that? And Spock's like, I don't know. But it is, he said. Then the thing snaps to life and tells him he's the guardian of forever. He can show them history as it unfolds on their planet. They end up finding Dr. McCoy, who was hiding feet away from them, undetected, even though they had tricorders. They could have detected him easy with a tricorder, you would think, but no. He was like 5 feet away. It was like a Three Stooges cartoon or something. So then, McCoy goes running into this portal, and they're like, oops. Maybe if we'd held on to him instead of letting him run and dive into the portal. Then they try to call the ship. They can't call the ship. And the Guardian's like, oh yeah, your ship doesn't exist. It's been erased from time. They're like, oops, not McCoy. So Kirk and Spock want to go back in time, grab McCoy, stop him from doing whatever it is he did. The Guardian's like, yeah, you can do that. But I can't slow down, so you'll have to just guess. So they do that. And they get within a few days of McCoy, they think. They don't know. Then they're like, where in Earth is he going to be? Boise? Siberia? They didn't know. They end up in what looked to be New York City. But it was never clear. They steal some clothes off a laundry line. Cop comes after him. Spock knocks him out with the Vulcan nerve pinch in front of a bunch of people. And they take off running. They end up in a basement, which apparently was the basement of a shelter. And then this woman, Edith Keeler, comes in. She's like, well, I'll just put you to work. And they're like, okay. So now 2 guys that broke into her basement, running from the police after having stolen clothes, in her employ. She saw nothing wrong with that. So you must be fine outstanding citizens. I'll put you to work. And they do this. Kirk tells Mr. Spock, build a computer so we can find out what happened. Spock's like, but there's no technology. He's like, do it anyway. Spock's like, I'll need this, 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 and this. He's like, I can't get you that. So just build it out of nothing. So Spock walks around the rest of the episode saying he's trying to build a computer out of stone knives and bear skins. Tells people that. He finally builds the thing, and he finds out in the few seconds that it works that this Edith Keeler has to die. He saw her obituary. He's like, well, that's why. She apparently lived. And they find out she was like this hardcore pacifist that told President Roosevelt not to enter World War II. Then Germany took over and prevented Starfleet from forming or something. So Spock's trying to figure out how they could kill off Edith Keeler so they could get to McCoy and stop the whole thing and get back to their ship. And Kirk's like, but I love her. And Spock's like, well, that sucks because she's got to die. Die. And Kirk's like, oops. And then McCoy shows up. He's still freaked out. Still on the effects of the medication. Doesn't know what planet he's on, but he thinks maybe it's Earth. He runs into one of the guys that was living in the shelter. And that guy freaked completely out. McCoy eventually just passes out because he's upset that they probably have stitches and needles. He can't stand needles and stitches. Passes out. The guy grabs his phaser and he's like, I wonder what this does. Then he just phasers himself on overload. Phaser and all just vanishes. And then McCoy finds himself at the shelter. And then in another Three Stooges-esque moment, Edith Keeler takes him away to go lay down on a cot 3 seconds before Spock walks into the room. They miss each other by feet. McCoy comes out of the delusional state he's in. Doesn't believe he's on Earth. Doesn't believe he's in the 1930s. Refuses to believe it. Can't explain how he would be there, so he just says he won't believe it. And then eventually, when Kirk's going to take Edith Keeler to a movie, she's like, what do you mean you don't know what a movie is? Dr. McCoy said the same thing, and then Kirk just starts screaming, McCoy, Leonard McCoy, where is he? And then he runs across the street. McCoy walks out of the shelter at the exact same second Kirk goes to enter the room. He, Spock, and McCoy do this big three-man hug, which was weird for Mr. Spock. Edith Keeler's like, I wonder what that's about. I'll just not look both ways and walk across the street. And then bam, she's hit by a car as McCoy tried to save her, but Kirk grabbed him and wouldn't let him go. And then they end up back through the portal somehow. No one explained how they found the portal or how that worked or anything, but they just walked through. Then McCoy comes through. Ship's back because everything was put back how it should be. Kirk's like, yeah, let's get out of here. And they take off. That was pretty much it. Some interesting notes. Joan Collins played Edith Keeler. It's one of Joan Collins' early acting performances. One of the more memorable to Star Trek fans. And all the regulars in this episode. Sulu, I don't believe he even had a single line in the episode. But he just, fluttered his eyes. He had this oh my look on his face when he came back. Presumably he was in charge, but it was never explained. They were in 1930, they said. They had sets from old gangster movies they used for the episode. So, pretty much that.